Just before the key scene in this week's Torah portion, when Moses, hits the rock instead of speaking to it as God had commanded him, he first chastises the Jews. He says to them, "Listen now, you rebels, shall we," meaning him and his brother Aaron, "bring water forth from you from this rock?" But that's a strange sentence. Why is he calling the Jews rebels? All they asked for was water. And they know that he and his brother can't bring water from a rock. Only God can do that. There's a medrash that says to understand what's going on here, you have to realize the context. Miriam, Moshe and Aaron's beloved sister, the righteous Miriam, had just died and been buried. And then this mob approached Moshe and Aaron demanding water. Moshe was upset. He felt that they should have come in an orderly fashion and first offered condolences on their loss. And, more importantly, given the proper honor to the departed Tzaddikus, the righteous Miriam. They should have said, "We recognize that all these years we had that miraculous well with the water in Miriam's merit. We see that because it dried up immediately after her death." But instead, they came clamoring loudly, raucously, this unruly mob, instead of coming properly. And so maybe Moshe was hinting that to them when he said, "Shimuna hamorim," listen now, you rebels. Maybe we can reread that as Shimuna, listen, ha Miriam. It was Miriam that all these years had given you water, and you didn't recognize that. You didn't credit that. You didn't honor her. You didn't respect her. And that's a lesson for us. How important it is to properly console mourners. The rabbis tell us that when you go to a shiva house to console a mourner, you should sit and be quiet. Don't say a word until the mourner starts speaking to you. That will tip you off as to what he or she wants to talk about, what they want to hear, if anything. A friend of mine told me that after he lost his mother when he was sitting shiva, one of his friends, who was otherwise logical and intelligent and rational, actually said the following to him while attempting to console him. He said, "You know, it could always be worse. It could have been your father who died." My friend said he had to restrain himself from picking the guy up from the scruff of his neck and throwing him out the window. On the other hand, that same friend said that he received enormous consolation from a story that another visitor told him, as follows. Russia and Japan were at war over Manchuria. A Japanese soldier threw a grenade into a trench. Somehow one of the Russian soldiers deflected it or batted it away, saving himself and the lives of many of his fellow soldiers. And when that soldier came home, he was a returning war hero. They scheduled a parade for him one afternoon. But the morning of the parade, there was a court case, and the judge declared guilty someone who had stolen a horse. And before issuing the sentence, hard labor, jail, the judge said to the defendant, "Excuse me, I noticed that your last name is the same as that young war hero who we're going to honor today with a parade. Is there any family relationship between the two of you?" And the defendant proudly said, "Yes, Your Honor, he's my son." The judge said, "He's your son? The war hero? You raised that young man? I am tearing up the charges. They're dismissed. You're free to go. Enjoy the parade." And by analogy, that's what happens up in heaven. Someone dies, they go up for judgment. The accusing angel starts reading this long list of infractions. God is sitting in his robe with his gavel, as it were, ready to pass judgment, when suddenly God hears something coming from earth. He hears the son or another relative of the deceased saying the Kaddish. And God says, "One second. I took you away from your family members. They are despondent. They're distraught. They're inconsolable. But instead of raising their fist at heaven and railing against some perceived injustice over what I did, instead they're saying, Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei rabbah. Let God's great name be magnified and exalted. Those are your children, your relatives. Charges dismissed. I'm ripping them up. Welcome to heaven." It's really important for the mourners to say the Kaddish, and it's really important for us to console them properly.